You get paid on Friday. By Tuesday, you're already watching the account. You pay the rent. You pay the car. You pay the utilities. You buy groceries. And somewhere in the middle of the month, you realize there's more month than money, so you wait. You count the days. You stress. You maybe borrow a little from the credit card to bridge the gap. And then Friday comes again and the cycle restarts, paycheck to paycheck. It's exhausting. It's stressful. It's suffocating. And according to recent studies, nearly 78% of Americans, including millions of Christians, live this way, not because they're lazy. Not because they don't work hard. But because nobody ever taught them how money works. Nobody showed them a better way. And the culture tells them to spend everything they earn and borrow the rest. But here's what the Bible says: this is not the life God designed for you. Proverbs 21 verse 5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Diligence plus planning equals profit. Haste, spending without thinking, living without a plan, leads to poverty. Today, we're going to change that. We're going to walk through the biblical principles and practical steps that break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle for good, not by getting rich overnight. Not with a gimmick or a scheme. But through the timeless wisdom God placed in Scripture, wisdom that works in every economy. In every income bracket, in every season of life. This is biblical financial freedom. And it's available to you. Starting today, let's begin. Before we talk about how to break the cycle, we need to understand why people stay in it. Because if you don't deal with the roots, you'll just repeat the pattern. Root cause number 1, no plan. No budget. No intention. Most people manage money by accident. They earn it, they spend it, and they're surprised when it's gone. They have no idea what they spend on food each month. No idea what their subscriptions total. No idea where the money goes. Proverbs 24 verses 3 to 4 says, "By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures." Building a house requires a blueprint. Building a financial life requires a plan. Without one, you're just wandering financially. A budget isn't restriction. It's a roadmap. It's wisdom in action. Root cause number 2, spending to feel better. Emotional spending is one of the biggest drivers of financial instability. Hard week at work? Treat yourself to a nice dinner. Feeling stressed? Online shopping therapy. Bored? Scroll through Amazon and add things to your cart. The problem is that emotional purchases never solve emotional problems. You feel better for a moment, then the credit card bill comes and you feel worse. Only God fills the voids we try to fill with stuff. Psalm 107 verse 9 says, "He satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things." Shopping can't satisfy the thirst that only God fills. Root cause number 3, keeping up with everyone else. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." But most people's financial lives are shaped entirely by the world's pattern. The world says you need a new phone every year. You need a car with a payment. You need the vacations, the clothes, the lifestyle that everyone on social media seems to have, so you spend to match. You borrow to keep up. And you wonder why you're always broke. Here's the secret about social media: everyone is pretending. Most people you're trying to keep up with are also broke and stressed. They just don't post that. Root cause number 4, no margin, no emergency fund. Life happens. The car breaks down. The medical bill arrives. The appliance dies, and when you have zero savings, every emergency goes straight to the credit card, and credit card debt at 20% interest is financial quicksand. The harder you try to get out, the deeper you sink. The cycle isn't just paycheck to paycheck. For many people, it's paycheck to paycheck plus growing debt. Proverbs 21 verse 20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." No savings means no margin. And no margin means every surprise becomes a crisis. Root cause number 5, wrong theology about money. Some Christians believe planning is a lack of faith. I'll just trust God to provide, but trusting God and being a wise steward are not opposites. They're partners. God told Noah to build the ark before the flood came. He told Joseph to store grain before the famine hit. He told the ant to gather food before winter arrives. Preparation is not a lack of faith. It's faithfulness in action. Other Christians feel guilty about saving money. Shouldn't I be giving it all away? But you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give generously if you're drowning financially. Getting financially stable enables greater generosity, not less. Root cause number 6, ignoring the problem. This might be the most common root. People know they're in financial trouble. They just don't look at it. They avoid opening bank statements. They don't add up their debt. They don't track their spending because the truth is too painful. But you cannot fix a problem you refuse to face. Proverbs 27 verse 23 says, "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks, give careful attention to your herds." Know your condition. Face your reality. That's where freedom begins. Now let's establish the biblical framework. What does God actually say about managing money well? Principle number 1, God owns everything. You're the manager. Psalm 24 verse 1 says, "The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it." 1 Chronicles 29 verse 14 says, "Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand." You don't own your income. You're managing God's resources. This is the stewardship mindset, and it changes everything. When you understand that you're a steward, not an owner, you stop spending recklessly. You start making decisions based on what honors the owner. How would you manage your company's money differently from your own? With more care. With more accountability. With a plan. That's how to manage your finances, as a faithful steward of God's resources. Principle number 2, earn honestly and diligently. Proverbs 10 verse 4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." Colossians 3 verse 23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord." Not for human masters. Biblical financial freedom starts with working hard and working honestly. There are no shortcuts. No get-rich-quick schemes. Proverbs 28 verse 20 says, "A faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished." Faithful diligence. That's the foundation. Principle number 3, give first. Proverbs 3 verses 9 to 10 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the firstfruits of all your crops, then your barns will be filled to overflowing." Firstfruits means first. Not leftovers. The first portion of every paycheck belongs to God. This is counterintuitive. If you're broke, giving seems impossible, but giving first does several things. It declares that God is your provider, not your paycheck. It breaks the grip of money on your heart. It invites God's blessing over your finances. It aligns your heart with kingdom priorities. Malachi 3 verse 10 says to test God in this, see if He won't open the floodgates of heaven. Give first. Trust God with the rest. This is not manipulation, it's faithfulness. Principle number 4, save consistently. Proverbs 13 verse 11 says, "Whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow, little by little." Not all at once. Consistent, patient saving builds wealth over time. The ant principle from Proverbs 6, storing in seasons of plenty for seasons of scarcity. This is biblical savings. Principle number 5, spend wisely. Proverbs 21 verse 20 says the wise store up. The fool spends everything. Spending wisely means living below your means. Distinguishing between needs and wants. Planning purchases rather than impulse buying. Getting value for your money. Principle number 6, avoid and eliminate debt. Romans 13 verse 8 says, "Let no debt remain outstanding." Proverbs 22 verse 7 says the borrower is slave to the lender. Debt steals your future income and gives it to someone else. It limits your freedom. It prevents generosity. Eliminating debt is essential to breaking the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Principle number 7, plan for the future. Proverbs 21 verse 5 says plans lead to profit. Haste leads to poverty. Future planning, saving for emergencies. Retirement, large purchases, is biblical wisdom. You're not showing distrust in God by saving for retirement. You're being the ant. You're being Joseph. You're being a faithful steward. Now let's get intensely practical. Here is the step-by-step biblical path to breaking the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. Face your reality. Before you can fix your finances, you need an honest picture of where you stand. For 1 full month, track every single dollar you spend. Every coffee. Every impulse purchase. Every subscription. Everything. Use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a budgeting app. It doesn't matter how you track it, just track it, at the end of the month. Add it all up. Categorize it. Be honest, most people are shocked by what they discover. The subscriptions they forgot about. The eating out they didn't realize added up to hundreds of dollars. The small daily purchases that totaled thousands. You can't make a plan until you know the truth. Proverbs 27 verse 23, be sure you know the condition of your flocks, know your condition. Step 2, write a budget. Every dollar gets a name. A budget is simply telling every dollar where to go before the month begins instead of wondering where it went afterward. Here's a simple biblical budget framework based on your take-home pay. Give 10%. Tithe and offerings come first. Honor God first. Save 10 to 15%. Emergency fund, then long-term savings. Housing 25 to 30%. Rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, transportation 10 to 15%. Car payment, or none, insurance, gas, maintenance, food 10 to 15%. Groceries and minimal eating out, everything else 25 to 30%. Clothing, healthcare, entertainment, personal, miscellaneous. The percentages will vary based on your situation. But the principle is, every dollar has a name before the month begins. A budget isn't about deprivation. It's about intentionality. It's permission to spend on what matters and limits on what doesn't. Luke 14 verse 28 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Count the cost. Make a plan. That's wisdom. Step 3. Build a starter emergency fund, $1,000 to $2,000. Before paying off debt aggressively or investing, save $1,000 to $2,000 as fast as you possibly can. This fund is your buffer between you and going deeper into debt when life happens. Without it, every car repair, medical bill, or unexpected expense goes on the credit card. With it, you handle emergencies in cash and stay out of the debt spiral. How to get there fast? Sell things you don't need. Electronics, clothes, furniture, jewelry. Cut every non-essential temporarily. Streaming services, gym memberships, eating out. Take an extra job or gig for a season. DoorDash, Uber, freelance work. Redirect any bonus, tax refund, or unexpected income to this fund first. Don't touch this money for anything that isn't a genuine emergency. New shoes are not an emergency. A broken water heater is. Step 4. Eliminate consumer debt. Attack it like a gazelle. Proverbs 6 verse 5 says to free yourself from debt like a gazelle from a snare. Urgently. Aggressively. Like your life depends on it. Once you have your starter emergency fund, list every debt you have: credit cards, car loans, personal loans, student loans, medical bills. Then choose your attack strategy, the snowball method. Pay minimum on all debts. Throw every extra dollar at the smallest debt first. When it's paid off, roll that payment to the next smallest. This builds momentum and motivation. The avalanche method. Pay minimum on all debts. Throw every extra dollar at the highest interest rate first. This saves the most money mathematically. Both work. Pick the one you'll actually stick to, while eliminating debt. Stop adding new debt. Cut up credit cards if necessary. Increase income through extra work. Cut expenses to the bone temporarily. Celebrate every debt you eliminate. It matters. Remember, this season of sacrifice is temporary. Freedom is permanent. Step 5. Build a full emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Once consumer debt is eliminated, build your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This is your real financial security net. It protects you from catastrophic events, job loss, major illness, major home repair. With a full emergency fund, a job loss is a problem, not a disaster. A medical bill is covered, not catastrophic. You can say yes to opportunities instead of no because you have no margin. This fund completely changes your financial stability. It means you're never truly one paycheck away from crisis again. Step 6. Invest for the future. With debt gone and an emergency fund built, now you can start building wealth. Proverbs 13 verse 22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." To leave an inheritance, you have to build wealth. And you build wealth by investing consistently over time. At this stage, maximize your employer's 401k match. This is free money. Open a Roth IRA. Tax-free growth for retirement. Invest in low-cost index funds. Diversified, long-term, simple. Time is your greatest asset in investing. The earlier you start, the more compound interest does the work. Even $200 a month invested at an average 8% return over 30 years grows to over $300,000, little by little. Month by month. Year by year. Step 7. Give generously and increase over time. As your income grows, as debt disappears, as savings builds, give more. The goal of biblical financial freedom is not to accumulate as much as possible for yourself. The goal is to be free enough to be outrageously generous. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 6 says, "Whoever sows generously will also reap generously." As God blesses your faithfulness, increase your giving. Move from 10% to 12% to 15% to 20%. Live on less than you earn so you can give more than you thought possible. That's the ultimate picture of biblical financial freedom. The steps only work if your mindset changes. Here are the mindset shifts that make lasting financial freedom possible. Shift number 1. From consumer to steward. Stop thinking, "What do I want to buy?" Start thinking, "How should I manage what God gave me?" This single shift changes every financial decision. Shift number 2. From instant gratification to delayed gratification. Our culture worships the immediate. We want it now, and we'll pay for it later. Biblical wisdom says the opposite. Wait for what you can't afford yet. Save up. Pay cash. The sacrifice of delayed gratification is small compared to the freedom it produces. Proverbs 13 verse 4 says, "A sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied." The diligent get what they want, eventually. The impulsive are never satisfied. Shift number 3, from comparing to contentment. Philippians 4 verses 11 to 12 says Paul learned contentment in any and every situation. Stop comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel. Stop upgrading because your neighbor upgraded. Ask instead, is this God's will for my finances right now? Not, does this match what everyone else has? Shift number 4, from fear to faith. Financial stress often produces fear. Fear of not having enough. Fear of the future. Fear of loss, but Matthew 6 verse 33 says, "Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." You can be diligent in your finances and trust God with the outcomes. These aren't opposites. Plan faithfully. Budget wisely. Save diligently. And trust God with everything you can't control. Shift number 5, from short-term thinking to long-term vision. Proverbs 29 verse 18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Where are you going financially? What does financial freedom look like for you in 5 years? 10 years? Write it down. Make it specific. A goal without a deadline is just a dream. With a vision, you have something to work toward. Every sacrifice makes sense in light of the destination. Shift number 6, from secrecy to accountability. Proverbs 15 verse 22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." Financial secrecy feeds financial dysfunction. Find a trusted person, a mentor, a spouse, an accountability partner, who can ask you hard questions and celebrate your wins. Consider a financial coach. Consider a Dave Ramsey class or similar biblically based financial program. You don't have to figure this out alone. I want to paint a picture of what life looks like on the other side of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, because you need a vision to keep you going on the hard days, freedom to be generous. When you have margin, you can give spontaneously. Someone needs help, and you can actually help. The offering plate comes, and you can give joyfully, not anxiously. Freedom to follow God's call. When you're not shackled by debt, you can respond to God's direction. He calls you to give something away, you can. He calls you to take a lower paying, more meaningful job, you can. He calls you to the mission field, you're not trapped. Financial freedom is spiritual freedom, freedom from fear. You wake up on Monday and you don't immediately think about money. Not because you're rich, but because you have a plan. You have a cushion. You know where you stand. The anxiety lifts. The stress lifts. The weight that's been on your chest for years lifts. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7. Do not be anxious about anything. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That peace is available. Financial wisdom creates space for it, freedom to leave a legacy. Proverbs 13 verse 22, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. When you manage money well, you set your children up better than you started. You break generational cycles. You build generational blessing. That's not about hoarding. That's about faithfulness that outlasts you. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. But that statistic doesn't have to describe you. The paycheck to paycheck cycle is not your destiny. It's a pattern. And patterns can be broken, not overnight. Not without sacrifice. Not without changing how you think and how you live, but step by step, month by month, decision by decision, you can get free. Start with a budget. Build a small emergency fund. Attack your debt like a gazelle. Save consistently. Give generously. Invest for the future. And underneath all of it, remember, God is your provider. Not your paycheck. Not your employer. Not the economy. Seek His kingdom first. Honor him with your firstfruits. Manage what he's entrusted to you with wisdom and faithfulness, and watch him honor that obedience. Proverbs 21 verse 5, the plans of the diligent lead to profit. Be diligent. Be faithful. Make a plan, and break the cycle for good. If this helped you, share it with someone who needs it. Comment below and tell me, what's the first step you're going to take this week? Subscribe for more biblical teaching on money, stewardship, and the Christian life. Your financial freedom starts today.